I would like to elaborate more on what it means to be intimate, dating, romantic comedies, why these things are more important to us than the political. I have a best friend who is a cartoonist, and when she was in her early 20s, she was about to get married to this nice guy who wrote poetry at NYU. And on their trip to Vegas and back to their Pennsylvania, he died of a stroke. And forever, at a young 20-something age, she was left alone and depressed, and she moved to California and found a new life as a cartoonist. But a butterfly effect could have happened where she could have lived happily ever after, white male, Asian female, and having Eurasian children. And maybe that jaded a part of her life. But it just goes to show you that little story is important to how we grow as human beings. In my own life, as of my early 20s, I have been jaded too, and I now live the life of a type of punk avant-garde artist. 1960s hippie culture of free love and promiscuity date rape was a failed experiment. Years later, Andrea Dworkin noticed this as well, and much of everything we do today, from justifying our one-night stands to looking for hookups, is itself a consensual rape. Under this predictable time of COVID-19, previously people were okay with the one-night stands and the club music and were going about their Tinder lifestyle. And now when everybody's at home, all of a sudden everybody is asking that people should wear the mask and you should shame people if they don't wear the mask. This is ironic because this is not so much about the virus, it's more about hating on people who don't wear masks. And so the people who pretended that they never had parents living out in the beautiful city to do what they want are now back at their parents' house asking and saying, shame those people who don't have a paternal force. So isn't it ironic is that these people, the very decadent people, are now asking a paternal force this year because their middle-class fancy lifestyle is at stake? New York City Graffiti writes, "Last night was the last night of my last life as a older Japanese woman moves from her Bushwick apartment back to her home in Tokyo with her parents, sleeping with random white men for the past 20 years of her life because she was raped at a young age." The beautiful thoughts with clarity I could have said to a friend on Telegram. I just didn't record myself, so I'm trying to get back those thoughts again. You could have said that the whole entire baby boomer generation had it nice. That they too, born between the late 50s and early 60s, that they lived in the suburbs out in Ohio or something. Everything catered to them. Everything spoiled and materialistic. Everything was just a simple way because this is how you live life. But how much of that was really social control? And the people who rejected that within Gen X or Millennial, now it becomes completely obsolete to quote-unquote start a family. Go to a Michael's Art and Crafts store out in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, and all you see are just signs of how good life, the family is here, just completely avoided and isolated from what's happening in Philadelphia with Black Lives Matter and everything of the gentrified children and their hatred, the suicide of what it means to be white. There's nothing more white than being white and upholding white values, whether that means joining Antifa, gentrifying a neighborhood. That's your entire superstructure, is to be a gentrifier, to grade your middle class values and put it into the context of liking James Chance and Lydia Lunch. What does this even mean? And the dreaded self-hate that you actually hate yourself and that you want to marry someone non-white because there is no white identity. You're not French, Polish, Hungarian, Irish. You're just white, a middle-class virus of Hispanic, Brazilian origin. And therefore you look at the Chinese girl who goes to NYU and you want to be with her and you want to have a STEM degree and make more money, and she likes Depeche Mode and you like bad, stupid metal. You shop at Trader Joe's and Whole Foods. What does this even mean? It seems like you're just making her white, or you're making her quote-unquote Asian. What does this even mean? This keeps people in the dark for sure, and that the middle class itself is not an identity, but a hostility towards everything we know and love. The reason why you're not happy with life is because you're not authentic with oneself. you're playing a game of quote unquote keeping up with the Jones, constantly buying things and being a part of this reality to like Young Lean and Ariel Pink so your other white douchebag friends can like it. And now you have a goth girlfriend, and all of a sudden those Wojak memes are reflections of what white people think. Why engage in such pseudo-intellectualism when the natural life was just having children, being a father, making your income and whatnot? I mean, itself, the wage job has only been around for only a century or so. That itself, we've never owned the means of production, but I'm very happy in the next few years, I think we will finally own the means of production and actually go back to the organic family movement. And how do you spot a actual radical Marxist? One who ignores and shuns alcohol and pornography and drugs, who physically works out, who has a classic literature of the East and West, who knows something more of what religion, and is not some amazing atheist type of individual, not this idiot central, not a soy boy who looks at statistics to justify their consumption, not a shallow being who has daddy issue fantasies, who finally can break away from the hell which was suburbs that killed our ethnic identities. Every time I see a musician like Mo Shop, who's actually French but lives in Japan and totally doesn't have an Asian fetish, guys. Yes. Oh, he's just Japanese. What does it mean to be Japanese? Does it mean to observe in Japanese popular culture? To advance, to be a Japanese nationalist is to love anime, to love hangtai, to pursue a Japanese woman, to use Japanese pen pal services, to actually discriminate and hate Chinese and Korean, to be with a Japanese woman. What does this even mean? That bitch Maggie Lee wrote a film called Mommy about how she misses her mom so much, how she misses her Taiwanese identity, and later she's at Rebecca's making out with me, having sex with me, trying to be me, trying to have her white boyfriend fantasy, only then to use and rape me, to make me feel like shit. Then what is even the point of the spirituality between East meets West? What does it even matter? Yukio Mishima is right. People wear masks. They're layered and layered among these traumas, but only to reveal yourself and to become intimate. We have to take a lead from the actual Tumblr SJWs, to watch She-Ra or Steven Universe, that the intimate is important, that we do like Kieran Colgan or Anna Akana films, that we do actually want to relate to one another. The Songs of Mitski actually propels us forward like a Leni Riefenstahl film, that romantic comedies are indeed the future medium. I'm not interested in gay white nationalism for the fact that they promote white nationalism, but gay white nationalism because they have intimate bonds between other gay men, that they're overcoming their traumas. This too is not embracing punk culture like Gigi Allen, but becoming straight edge and realize you lived through so much pain that the queer becomes a strong man. This is what it means. This is what the romantic comedy means. And people on the internet still have this issue. When we end the kill stream, we'll begin with the rom-com.